Rabbi, I'm Olga.
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. All persons having anything to do before the Honorable Heidi Brager, Chief Justice of Massachusetts Trial Court, the Honorable Stacey Forts, Chief Justice of the District Court, and the Honorable Mark Coven, First Justice of the Quincy District Court. For the celebration of Law Day, please draw near, give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and His Honorable Court. You may be seated.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jackie Burke, and I'm an Assistant Clerk Magistrate here at Quincy District Court. What a privilege it is to welcome you and be amongst so many talented legal professionals. In particular, our amazing judges who are steadfast in their commitment to the rule of law. I am honored to be assisting one of our amazing judges, First Justice Coven, who will be presiding over our Law Day ceremony. During a time when police officers are often criticized, judged, and condemned, today we stop to recognize and celebrate our local law enforcement officers. Here at Quincy District Court, we have the great fortune to work with many wonderful police officers every day, including those assigned to the court as police prosecutors. We are indebted to them for their professionalism and assistance to us. During this ceremony, you'll hear stories of brave and heroic actions undertaken by officers within our jurisdiction while on duty. These stories exemplify their total dedication to the oath that they took to protect and serve. To these officers, we as a court give our deepest thanks and appreciation. Looking around and seeing so many family members here to support their loved ones makes this day truly special. We as a court understand what the families of law enforcement go through, as several members of our courthouse staff are married to or are related to police officers. Whether it is changed or canceled plans due to forced overtime, missed holidays due to scheduling or staffing shortages, missed dinners and bedtimes due to a late emergency call, or the subtle fear that creeps into your mind when your loved one was supposed to be home and you haven't heard from them. We understand. These are feelings and sacrifices that I am all too familiar with, as I am the mother of 2 young children, and I am also married to a police officer. The worst moment of our day is when Dada leaves the house to go to work, and the best moment of our day is when he walks in the door from his shift and a family hug is shared. During these trying times, we offer our understanding, thanks, and appreciation to the families of our law enforcement officers. It is now my pleasure to invite Mother Olga from the Daughters of Mary Nazareth in Quincy to come forward and give the invocation.
Thank you so much. It's a great privilege and an honor to be with all of you here this morning for this very special and honorable occasion. Obviously, I'm a Catholic nun, so I will be praying according to my faith tradition, but I just want you to know I honor each one of you in whatever way you worship and you believe in God, our Creator. I hold you all dearly in my heart and pray for you as well according to your own tradition and faith background as you say those prayers in your heart. In the name of the Father, and the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. God, our Creator, we give you thanks and praise for the gift of this beautiful day, the day that we celebrate your goodness to us by creating men and women in your likeness and image. We thank you for the gift of family, the gift of faith, the gift of country, the gift of calling that you have placed in the hearts of many men and women here who will be honored today, and their fellow brothers and sisters also in each department where they serve. We believe, Lord, that the calling of those who serve in armed forces is not a job or a career, but it's a calling and a vocation. We thank you for placing such an honorable call in their hearts to say yes. Yes to service and yes to life, because they save lives. Dear Lord, in the Holy Scripture you teaches us that there is no greater love than laying one's life for his friends. Today we gather here to remember, to honor, and to celebrate many men and women in uniform who put these words into action every day as they leave their home, their families, their loved ones. They put these words into action as they lay their lives every day in big way and small ways, whether seen or hidden. We are gathered here today to celebrate so many officers who have demonstrated your love, your compassion for others. They are like good Samaritans. They go above and beyond their duty to help those in need. We give you thanks and praise, Heavenly Father, for the gift of each man and woman who will be honored today. And we ask you, please, Lord, to bless their families, their parents, their spouses, their children and loved ones, because such a call, such a vocation is not just for the men and women in uniform, but it's a vocation and a calling of the whole family. We ask you, please, Lord, to extend your mercy upon their families. Sustain them every time their loved ones are out there to do this work of mercy for your people in every town and city where they serve. Yes, Lord, we have so much to be thankful for today. And we ask your blessing today upon all those who will be honored and their loved ones, that your angels will always go before them to lead their ways to safety, and will always be behind them to bring them home to their loved ones safely. We ask all these intentions, and whatever my brothers and sisters who are gathered here from different faith backgrounds and traditions hold in the silence of their hearts, we lift them all before your heavenly throne as we ask them in your most holy name, now and forever. Amen. In the name of the Father, and Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. God bless you all.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Judge Mark Hoven. With me on the bench today are Chief Justice Heidi Brieger of the trial court, and Chief Justice Stacy Forts of the district court. Before I begin, I just want to say a couple of things before I begin the formal program. Most importantly, I want to recognize former Attorney General Frank Bellotti, who's sitting in the corner, 101 years young. General, I can't thank you enough for being here today, for the friendship that you've shown to this court, and for being my mentor for so many years. Thank you, General. Second, I want to thank, there's two people I want to give my special thanks to for making this day possible. The first and foremost is Clerk Magistrate Arthur Tobin, the Clerk Magistrate of this court. As everyone in this courthouse can tell you, Mr. Tobin worried every detail of today's presentation. It wouldn't have been done without him. And I just want to add one thing to this. I'm very proud to be the first justice of this court. This is a court where people in the community know that they could turn to when they're in need of a loved one. It's a place where victims who live in abusive households can turn to for protection. And it's a place where lawyers enjoy practicing. The reason for that is because the probation staff treats everyone on probation well, is open to and works with victims of any type of violence. It's because the court officers know how to talk to people, they know how to de-escalate situations. And it's because, first and foremost, because Arthur Tobin has created a culture in this court and expectation that everyone be treated well in this court. And I have so much gratitude for him for everything that he's done for me personally and for this court. So thank you, Mr. Tobin. The second person I want to thank is former and now retired State Trooper Ken Halloran, who every year works with me and Mr. Tobin to put this whole ceremony together. And today wouldn't have been possible without Trooper Halloran's involvement. So thank you, Kenny. Thank you very much. So now I'm just going to try and recognize some people. Please hold your applause till the very end, but I want to introduce a number of people who have joined us here today. First of all, Attorney General Andrea Joy Campbell, Speaker of the House and our Speaker and our Representative Ron Mariano, representing Her Excellency the Governor of Massachusetts is Tara Healy. The Governor is in Italy, as we all read about this morning. Mayor Thomas Koch from Quincy and his wife, Miss Christine Koch. Ms. Koch, thank you very much for joining us here today with your husband. Mayor Erin Joyce from Braintree, former Mayor Bill Phelan. I could be missing people, so I'm just going to list people who responded. I do see Senator Walter Timilty. Senator Keenan may be here. Representative Chan. Former Representative Stephen Tobin. I haven't seen Michael Bellotti, or I shouldn't say, I haven't heard Michael Bellotti here today. The District Attorney of Norfolk County, Mike Morrissey, who we'll be hearing from. Representing the court system, I've already introduced the two chiefs, but we do have Court Administrator Tom Ambrosino. Let me see who's here. Retired Judge Diane Moriarty, who I miss greatly and I'm so happy is here. Judge Paula Clifford, Judge Honor Siegel, Judge Bob Harness, Judge Dan O'Malley, Judge Siobhan Foley. Thank you all for being here. City councilors from Quincy, Richard Ash and Dan Minton. I do see the county commissioners. Our great friend Joe Shea is here. Thank you, Joe, for always being here. Mr. Stady, Mr. Collins, thank you. Norfolk County Director John Cronin, the Assistant Director William Buckley. And school officials, we have the Superintendent Dr. Peter Burrows from the Milton School Department, Kevin Mulvey from the Quincy Superintendent of Schools, Catherine Ubley from the Quincy School Committee, Beverly Cole Roby from the Randolph School Committee, Ida Gordon from the Randolph School Committee, Brian Howard, the town administrator, the town manager for the town of Randolph, retired Chief Probation Officer Jay Brennan, and Colonel McKeon, who will be receiving an award with his wife, is here today. I want to introduce our police chiefs. I don't know if some of you want to come up, any chiefs? No? Okay. Chief Cahoon from Braintree, Chief Quigley from Cohasset, Chief Smith from Holbrook, Chief King from Milton, Chief Kennedy from Quincy, Chief Morang from Randolph, Chief Fuller from Weymouth. I think that's it. Now, if I missed anybody, I apologize. Next year, you'll know to RSVP, so I'll know who's here. And all right, thank you all very much. Thank you for coming here today. Right now, it's my pleasure to call up the mayor of Quincy, Mayor Koch.
Good morning, everybody. Mother, Rabbi, distinguished justices, distinguished members of law enforcement, my colleagues in government. It's a pleasure to bring the greetings of the city of Quincy to this annual event, an important event, particularly in light of the happenings the last few years that we've seen, unbelievably, really, across the country. As mayor, and I know Mayor Phelan would agree with me, there's a lot of pull. There's a lot of folks that are pulling in different directions for budget, for this or for that. And I'm proud to say that, we have as many law enforcement members in the Quincy Police Department today than we did since Clerk Tobin was mayor back in the late 70s. So it's important, and I think Bill would agree that, education is important. All the other things we do are important. But law and order. If you don't have law and order, if people don't feel safe in their person, in their property, then the rest of it doesn't really matter. So I'm grateful to members of the Quincy Police Department who serve every day. For that matter, all the department members who are here today. I'm grateful to the court, particularly Judge Colvin. Always been accommodating, always been a friend, assist us in moving things forward in a positive way. I know that the folks here perform every day with great compassion in performing justice that's needed. So thank you to all. Thank you for your service, and congratulations to all the award winners today. God bless.
It's now my pleasure to call up the Speaker of the House, Speaker Ron Mariano.
Thank you, Judge Colvin. And to my colleagues in government, to the judicial branch that is so good to see again, and to the former members of this court. I am here to sort of present the Rabbi Jacob Mann Award for Social Justice to a former colleague of mine, Jeff Locke, who's around here somewhere, and someone who I don't know, Pamerson Eiffel, who is the Commissioner of Probation. Sort of a unique situation. When I was asked to do the presentation today, I was telling Mr. Tobin a little story. For those of you who don't know, I grew up in Quincy Point on Lancaster Street, the street that Rabbi Mann lived on. He lived right next to the temple, and so being one of the pains in the neighborhood, he selected me to be the Shabbos Goy for the high holidays. Rabbi, so my first employer was Rabbi Mann. And I want you to know I did it for about 5 years and I never got a raise. It was 50 cents for the day I started to the day it ended. But I truly began to develop an affection for a man who I thought was one of the nicest gentlemen and one of the wisest individuals I've ever met. And I continued my relationship with him as I get into politics. So it is truly an honor for me to be selected to do this, even though it was a lucky accident. Sometimes it's always better to be lucky than good. And on this, I'm here. The other nice thing about this is we're here at the Frank Bellotti Courthouse. One of the best things I've done since I've been speaking is to make sure that the paperwork got moved and this was created, because it gives us an opportunity once a year to think about all the great things that General Bellotti did for the residents of Massachusetts. Not just Quincy, but all of Massachusetts. It is an occasion to be here and talk about all the contributions that he's been involved in, not only in Quincy, but throughout the country. And one of the things it does do is reawaken my awareness to the sacrifices that the law enforcement officers make daily. And we heard a little bit from the wife of a law enforcement person, so it does hit home. And I am awfully proud of the fact that we continue in the Massachusetts legislature to recognize the sacrifices that so many of our police officers make. And to be part of this is truly important for me. And to be honored here by the clerk magistrate, Arthur Tobin, and asked to be here is truly something that I really appreciate. But I also want to remind everyone that the things that Rabbi Mann stood for, the justice, the equal opportunity, the kindness, more than anything, the memory I have of him is the kindness. No matter if you were a ragtag kid in the schoolyard, bouncing balls off the wall, too late at night for the rabbi, who I think went to bed at 7 o'clock. But anyway, he was up there then, so he could go to bed when he wanted. But our relationship with him was one of contention yet respect. When he told us to move on, we moved on. So I keep hearing voices telling me to shut up. But anyway, I'm here to sort of bring these awards, and I guess I come back later and do that. Okay, see, I did read the program, so. But I wanted to thank everyone for the invitation, and I truly am honored to be here, and I look forward to the presentations.
It's now my pleasure to call up the District Attorney of Norfolk County. Before we hear from the district, I just want to say, I think all of my colleagues here would agree how fortunate we are to have Mike Morrissey as our district attorney who we work with. He's taught his assistant district attorneys well. He's taught them how to treat people fairly, how to work with defense lawyers, and we're very fortunate because it's created the type of court where everyone can discuss things reasonably and rationally, and that starts from the top. So thank you very much. The district attorney will now be presenting the Dana Awards to each of the police departments.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Mr. Tobin and the staff here for helping me put this together. Those 6 phone calls you gave me were great, Arthur. And so but Your Honor's general, and it's a rarity that I get to see both of the newest and the oldest, and it's a pleasure, my colleagues in government. I'm going to try to do this. There's so many people, and we haven't done this in a while. So, according to Arthur, if I mess up, you're taking the blame, chiefs. I just want to let you know. So, we get into this. Michael Conley, who runs the district court, is going to help me out, and I'd also be remiss to say that John Looney, who you stole from me, Arthur, and Robert Stewart have run the district court for me well over the last few years. You've been stealing talent from me for years, which I can appreciate. The Dana Awards. It's now my privilege to confer the 2024 Officer Robert P. Dana Awards for meritorious work in law enforcement. Metropolitan District Commission Police Officer Dana was shot and killed in 1984 by a suspect who wrestled control of a different officer's weapon during an otherwise routine traffic stop. The contact had begun exactly as a type of interaction that happens every day in every police department. For that reason, it is a poignant reminder of the danger police officers willingly face, and Jackie talked about that, each day as they report for duty. Whether they are working alone or in the presence of others, called to active confrontation or conducting routine operations. The police officers and dispatchers, because they do work as a team, will now be called forward in groups by department, and I'd ask that when the time comes that the chiefs also come forward, and Arthur told you your order, so you better be ready. Recognized today for examples of particularly meritorious work, but also in recognition of their courage, their valor associated with knowingly and willingly put themselves in harm's way, not once, but as a way of life. The 6 departments honored. The first is the Holbrook Police Department. And I'd ask Chief Smith if you come up. I'd like to call Holbrook Sergeant Andrew Martins, Detective Martin Flaherty, Officers Justin Murphy and Peter Hutchings. We are honoring these officers for 2 separate events. If you come forward, just so that I have the next one that on deck. Arthur probably has it all organized, but Weymouth will be second. On March 21st of this year, Sergeant Martins responded to a working fire in an apartment building on Union Street. He arrived to see the building engulfed in flames and smoke billowing from the second floor. In keeping with the finest traditions of law enforcement, he ran towards the danger, entering the building to sweep the first floor occupants out in safety, continuing to the second floor where he broke down a deadbolted door to continue searching for residents. He exited and re-entered the building alongside additional personnel to confirm that all had left the building, and in doing so, it led to the discovery of a disabled elderly man in his bed in the rear of his apartment. The man's life was saved. The second event is on January 13, 2023. All the cruisers were dispatched to a house fire on Belcher Street. Detective Fahey, Officer Murphy, and Officer Hutchings saw heavy smoke and flames being fanned by strong winds. The officers were able to assist an elderly woman struggling to evacuate on a rear staircase. They learned that an elderly male was believed to be inside. The officers then attempted to breach the first floor to rescue him, but were driven back by heat, flame, and smoke. When the fire personnel arrived with superior safety equipment, the officers were able to direct them to the man inside and also a woman who had taken to the roof of the structure. The woman was saved. The elderly owner was transported to South Shore Hospital, where unfortunately he succumbed to smoke inhalation. Notwithstanding the sadness of that loss, the bravery and the action of these officers reduced the death toll and would have been a triple fatal incident. And my congratulations to each and every one of you. Thank you all. And just one little aside, the chief is getting ready to retire. He's been a great friend and mentor to me of what's gone on in Holbrook, and I wish you well, Chief, when the time comes. So this may be your last holiday. I'd like to call forward the Weymouth police officers, Patrick Coleman and Officer Riley Mackin. I'll start reading the narrative as they approach. On June 18, 2023, and the Chief, you're not escaping this either, Chief Fuller. On June 18, 2023, at roughly 11:15 p.m., these officers responded to a report of negative youth activity at West Augusta Beach. While addressing the group on the beach, the officers observed an obviously intoxicated male on the jetty and watched as he fell on his face, sustaining substantial injury. While being escorted awaiting medical personnel, he bolted into the ocean and began swimming from shore. He refused commands to return and eventually began flailing in distress. Officers Coleman and Mackin removed their duty belts, entered the water, and what their lieutenant described as an exhausting efforts, they were able to bring the young man back to shore. In doing so, they prevented an appear 18-year-old from drowning. My congratulations to you both. The Milton Police Department. Here's one of our tallest chiefs. The new chief, though, in Norwood, I think, is taller, John. So I'd like to call Milton Police Officers Henry Colligan, Jason Conklin, Travis Weeks to the front, as well as Milton Police Sergeants Brendan Douglas and Timothy Doyle. On May 20th, these officers were called to a shooting inside a multifamily dwelling. Arriving officers secured the perimeter of the building and made entry. Based on the crime scene, the officers proceeded to another unit in the building where they were quickly able to detain several occupants. These officers were able to arrest the party responsible for the shooting, recover 3 illegally possessed and loaded firearms, including large capacity and defaced serial number weapons. The officers' immediate response, swift insertion into the building, were critical in solving the crime, making arrests, and removing illegal firearms from the community in what could have been a very dangerous situation. My congratulations to each and every one of you. The Randolph Police Department, Chief Marag. I now invite Randolph Police Sergeant Mark Abramson, Officer Glenn Frazier, Sergeant Douglas Morgan, Officer Miguel Cruz, Officer Stephen Morse, Officer Herbert Nash, Detective Michael Tewitt, and Officer Vani Duperval. Now, I would like to say that as Officer Tewitt, one of my friends, and mentors. When something's going on in Randolph, he's there, trust me. And this is not the first time he's been on it. I think it's the third time, so fourth. I guess, yeah. So you can tell, if there's something going on, you can count on him being there. These 8 officers were nominated for their conduct in 3 separate events. On July 30th, 2023, Sergeant Abramson and Officer Frazier were dispatched to a vehicle crashed near the intersection of Oak Street and Skinnell Road. They arrived to a car emitting flames and too full of smoke to determine if there were still occupants. With disregard for their own personal safety, the officers first opened the rear door to pull away the airbag and curtain and found that there was no one in the back seat, but they could not access the front. They next made entry through the driver door, but the disoriented driver initially fought them off. The officers persisted, with the flames and smoke causing continuous life-threatening circumstances. The driver was eventually extricated, and his life was saved due to the courage and quick action of the Randolph Police. The second event, December 18, 2021, a 911 call just after 6:30 a.m. reported what the caller believed to be a domestic violence stabbing homicide of her friend. Sergeant Douglas Morgan, Officer Herb Nash, Officer Stephen Morse, Officer Miguel Cruz responded and were eventually able to corner the fleeing suspect vehicle on a dead-end street with the victim motionless inside. The suspects continued to resist and obstruct, and it was eventually removed from the car at gunpoint and secured on the ground. The bloody knife in the car. The officers then extricated the unresponsive victim, who was bleeding heavily from stab wounds to her torso. They were able to stem the bleeding using quick clot gauze technology to pack the wounds. She was transported to the hospital and incredibly survived the attempt on her life. The decisive action, the superior training and bravery of these officers saved the victim's life. Congratulations on a job well done. The third... I told you a lot goes on in Randolph. They're one of my favorite departments. All nearby patrol units were tied up on calls. October 29, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. when a call was dispatched for an 18-month-old reported to be choking at the home on Irving Road. Detective Michael Tewitt was conducting non-patrol operations in the area. I told you, he's always available when you need him. On High Street, and responded without hesitation and immediately began CPR. Officer Duperval overheard the transmission while in the south end of town, and he also responded, joining Tewitt in providing life support. Because of their combined efforts, the child began to breathe again. Quick action and prompt deployment of their training and experience saved the child's life. Congratulations all on a job well done. I'd like to invite the following members of the Braintree Police Department forward, including the Chief, Chief Cahoon. I'll start reading. Lieutenant Brian Cahoon, Sergeant Brian Jenkins, son of the former Chief, Detective John Conley, Officer Peter Gillis, Officer Jay Eyes, Officer Stephen Wallace, Officer Paul Zanaboni, Officer Lisa Fahey, and Mental Health Clinician Cassandra Jescuse. In the first instance, I asked Sergeant Bada and dispatchers Samantha Donovan and Danielle George to come forward relative to the second incident. On September 6th, 2023, shortly before noon, officers were dispatched to a private school in the community for the report of a female student armed with a knife and threatening self-harm. 9 members of the department responded, locating the girl sitting on the floor of the bathroom, holding a knife to her own throat. The team included specialists in crisis management negotiations, a medic, 2 crisis intervention training instructors, the department's mental health clinician, multiple forms of less lethal force. Officers learned that the girl had experienced previous stress and difficulty dealing with males, and advanced Officer Fahey and clinician Cassandra Jescuse to assume being point of contact. When negotiations and de-escalation efforts broke down and the subject rose to her feet, she began swinging a knife towards the officers. Because of good tactical position and appropriate distancing, the assaults were ineffective. When she attempted another thrust, one officer pinned the door with a shield, while a second deployed his taser. The subject was pinned, disarmed, and taken into custody for treatment. The event was an excellent showcase of modern police work and involved thoughtful coordination, planning, alternate forms of force, sensitivity and adjustment to circumstances, mental health support, and eventually making a young woman in crisis safe from harm. Congratulations. The second event is Customers of the local business frantically began calling 911 on the evening of January 13, 2024, reporting an armed robbery at gunpoint in progress. In keeping with their training and experience, dispatchers George and Donovan did an exceptional job of using information they were receiving to inform and help the directing officers. Sergeant Beta was in the immediate area and was able to observe the suspect fleeing on foot. He confronted him at gunpoint, but the subject ignored his commands and he continued to flee. Sergeant Bader observed that both of the subject's hands were now empty and took the subject to the ground, but in doing so realized that there was a gun lodged in the subject's waistband. Sergeant Bader was able to disarm the subject and cast the gun aside. The subject continued to struggle and resist until additional officers arrived to help place him in custody. Victims were able to participate in a show-up identification soon after. Every armed robbery is volatile and unpredictable, but because of the excellent coordination, training, and teamwork, this event ended with no injuries and one person safely in custody. Congratulations on a job well done. And now, Quincy, I'd like Chief Mark Kennedy to come forward. I'd ask, there's 3 groups of police officers to come forward for recognition. Lieutenant Michael Duran, Sergeant Detective Tom Pipjanovich, Detective James Menz, Officer Elizabeth Lee, and MBTA Lieutenant Mark Gillespie. That will be followed by, if you're following Arthur's instructions, it should be followed by Lieutenant James Green, Officer John Clifford, Officer Brenna Callahan, Officer Cornelius Koch, who ironically is the mayor and Christine's son, which is I'm sure that as many of the parents are here proud of their children, congratulations to all of you who have children that are on the force. And also invite Officers Ashley McBreen and Jose Berger to join us. In the morning of Saturday, November 12, 2022, a woman went missing from an area of the Wollaston train station. Officer Lee responded promptly, only to discover the brutal truth that the woman had been abducted, assaulted, left for injured in a parking lot several miles from Quincy. Although off-duty, Detective Pipjanovich entered the investigation and began reviewing surveillance footage from the area, to include footage from the MBTA. MBTA Lieutenant Mark Gillespie lent his expertise and resources to the investigation. The video revealed a crucial clue, a vehicle with ties to a past incident. Lieutenant Duran established surveillance at the believed location of the person of interest. After several hours of patient surveillance, the suspect emerged from a residence and was taken into custody at a nearby convenience store. His interview in custody was led by Lieutenant Gillespie. Detective James Menz mapped the suspect's movements during the incident, allowing police to obtain important evidence from those locations. Quincy police quickly moved and intelligently through a complex, multi-location investigation and apprehended a suspect who posed a substantial danger to the public. Congratulations on the work you did on that incident. On the evening of December 22nd, 2023, to strike the 2022, Quincy police units responded to the Wollaston train station for the report of sexual assault. Lieutenant Green, who was then a sergeant, located the victim, who was showing obvious signs of trauma, and helped to regain her composure and to relay vital information. That information led to Officers Callahan and Clifford coordinating with the MBTA personnel to delay the departure of a train from Quincy Center, enter the train, and identify a suspect wearing clothing consistent with the victim's description. The victim, in fighting off her attacker, had managed to bite and injure his hand. The officers determined that the suspect had a fresh bite mark. Officer Koch arrived and conveyed a photograph to Lieutenant Green, facilitating a successful positive identification. Officers were also able to work with the MBTA personnel to review surveillance videos, further substantiating the victim had been followed from the train. Compassion, teamwork, aggressive police work captured a violent suspect just moments after a traumatic assault, and a job very well done on the part of all involved. And the last incident of December 28, 2023, Quincy police were called to an establishment on C Street where an ongoing domestic disturbance was reported, including possible discharge of a firearm. Officer Ashley McBride arrived first, assessing unfolding events and quickly obtaining the information that would prove decisive. Officer Jose Berger, having learned that the vehicle, the type of vehicle, the number of involved occupants, and a license number from Officer McBride, that was monitoring northbound traffic on Quincy Shore Drive. When the suspect vehicle came into view, he initiated pursuit, continuing all the way into Boston. Shortly after terminating pursuit, the vehicle crashed. Officer Berger then began a foot pursuit, resulting in the apprehension of one suspect. With the assistance of Boston police, a second suspect was apprehended at a nearby hotel. The ensuing search of the vehicle yielded a loaded firearm with a round in the chamber and over 200 grams of meth. The call came chaotic and stressful. Events at the inception in Quincy and its termination in Boston. Officers McBride and Berger conducted themselves with professionalism and resolved to bring the suspect into custody, recover the illegal firearm, and no additional harm to civilians, law enforcement, or the suspect. Congratulations all, and jobs well done.
Can we have a round of applause for all the honorees again, please? And secondly, as the assistant clerk so eloquently stated earlier today, could I have a round of applause for all the family members who have sacrificed so much? I'm now going to move to the keynote speech before we hear the other awards. But I do want to introduce Attorney General Andrea Joy Campbell, and just a little about her, if I could. Attorney General Campbell learned both strength of character and resilience at a very young age. She attended Boston Latin High School, Princeton University, UCLA Law School. After law school, she worked for legal services. She worked in private practice. She worked as legal counsel to Governor Deval Patrick. She was elected to the Boston City Council and was later elected as the first black woman to serve as the president of the Boston City Council. She was elected Attorney General in January 2023. And I just want to say personally, as a person who was who worked in the Attorney General's office, I'm sure she didn't have any idea of the scope of responsibility and things that she would have to decide on behalf of the people of Massachusetts. Whether it's the closing of Steward hospitals, whether it's deciding whether Uber drivers and Lyft drivers are independent contractors or employees, whether it's fighting to keep down insurance rates, fighting to hold down utility rates. The scope is enormous, and I know, and I've observed her over her last year, that every decision she makes is based on what is in the best interests of the people of Massachusetts. So it's my pleasure to both thank Attorney General Campbell and to welcome you.
Thank you, Justice. I was like, he has no notes. It didn't look like he was reading any notes. That's pretty amazing. So thank you. Good morning, everyone. Okay, we got a beautiful baby or babies in the back. We have just honored incredible law enforcement officials who are doing the work every single day, as Jackie described. Just incredible sacrifice. So good morning, everyone. So I don't know about you, but I'm absolutely delighted to be here with all of you. I'm grateful to all of the organizers of this incredible event. Law Day is indeed special, established in the 50s, and so not everyone does it well, but Quincy does it really well. I love being in this courthouse. I love to continue to be present in community, so just delighted to be here. I'm also grateful to be here with, of course, all of my folks who work in government with me and in partnership with me, so grateful to my colleagues in government. I'm also grateful, of course, to the justices and your entire team and staff. I will say it's great to look up here, no offense, Justice, and see these fabulous women up here as well. I don't know about you, but I was thinking that when I was sitting down, so I figured I'd just say it. But congratulations to you and your new leadership roles as well. Just grateful. I also want to congratulate all of the honorees. Some I have the pleasure of working with more intimately than others. But these are folks who are absolutely deserving of the awards and recognition, probably don't get celebrated enough, frankly, but also who sacrifice and who are dedicated to public service. Because the last I checked, if you were in public service, you were often overworked and underpaid. So I am grateful for their leadership. So congratulations to all of our honorees, including those who work in law enforcement. I also want to extend gratitude to the families. I know none of us does this work by ourselves, and particularly in the context of law enforcement, as Jackie just described. Just today, there's a state police trooper who there is a wake later today because he passed unexpectedly. And so his family will be there to honor him, of course. So it really is a tough job, to say the least. So delighted to be here with all of the family members. And I love that the baby or the babies in the back were never removed from this celebration, because sometimes people go, oh, let's get the baby out of here. No, keep the babies. So just thank you to each and every one of you family members for the dedication and the sacrifice. If we could give them another round of applause. I know AG Bellotti had to leave, but I would be remiss if I didn't just take a couple of moments to just acknowledge an incredible human being and an amazing man. He is 101 years old. He looks fantastic. I tell him that all the time. He is sharp as a whip, but he has most importantly been a friend, a mentor, and offered significant advice and counsel to me. And I was here most recently, of course, all of us, I think most of us, to celebrate his 100th birthday in this setting. And Della Hunt, actually, former Congressman Della Hunt was also here and, of course, has since passed. So I frequently think about him because the two of them together offered incredible advice to me as a candidate for AG. And then after becoming AG, when the job really gets tough, a lot of advice and counsel. And if you don't know this, A.G. Bellotti is not just one who is revered here in Massachusetts because of his leadership to modernize the office of Attorney General. He is revered nationally. So I have frequently had to go to conferences with other AGs across the country. And at some of these conferences, they give an award in his honor. And when I tell you, people are so grateful to know him, to have worked with him. They admire and respect his advice and counsel. So we truly have a living legend right here in Massachusetts. And while I love being Attorney General, I absolutely love being Attorney General of Massachusetts because we truly live in the best state in the nation. And it becomes abundantly clear every time I get on a plane to come back here, sometimes in tears because we're so damn blessed. Sorry. No. But we are so blessed, and we sometimes probably take that for granted. And part of that is because of the leadership of elected officials, current and former, and of the ecosystem we have here, folks working in community, folks working as advocates, folks working in the nonprofit sector, public service, you name it. So I, too, wanted to extend gratitude to A.G. Bellotti on his recent award and everything he continues to do for the Commonwealth and, of course, for Quincy as well. So Law Day, what do I have to say about Law Day? So one, not only am I delighted to be here, and if you don't know, obviously Law Day celebrates the rule of law and recognizes the many liberties and blessings that the law affords us. It also, I think, gives us a chance to even reflect on the shortcomings of this system, to continue to make it accessible to folks regardless of their language, for example, to continue to make it a transparent system, to continue to make sure that all of our folks, including our most vulnerable, and those populations or demographics that have ever felt left out or left behind, that they feel as though this system serves them, is working on their behalf, and will afford them not only equity, but justice. As Attorney General, I use the law every day along with my incredible team, and I don't do this work by myself. We have an office, of course, in Boston, but we also have an office in New Bedford, in Springfield, and in Worcester. I think communities that sometimes feel left out and left behind because we are so Boston-centric, and I can say that because I'm born and raised in Boston. But I want to lift up those offices and other parts of the community as well, because I do this work with team members all across the Commonwealth who every day show up to use the law as a tool, and an effective tool to protect our residents from harm, whether that's harm from discrimination, unfair business practices, workplace violations. All of us are working together to ensure justice on your behalf. We do this, of course, through enforcement of some of the strongest and most progressive and expansive laws in the country, from consumer protection to civil rights to so much more. And I will tell you, just recently in a conference in Chicago, I had the Oregon AG tell me just how jealous she was of how progressive our laws are, particularly in the context of emerging technology and artificial intelligence. So when I say we are truly ahead of the game, we really are. But I also believe the rule of law and the tools of the AG's office can also help ensure that the next generation does better than the last. Because even as we put out our strategic plan, and I'll talk about that a little bit more, all of us, I think, do this work to make sure that indeed the next generation has more opportunity than the previous. Some of you know some of my story. I stand here as someone who's lost both of her biological parents, all of her biological grandparents, and a twin brother who sadly would die while in the custody of the Department of Correction when he was 29 years old as a result of receiving inadequate health care. And I stand here also with loved ones who are currently incarcerated. And let me tell you, some folks will try to use that against me. I tell them, bring it on, because my faith runs so very deep, and I know I serve something bigger than me, and that it truly is about helping others and affording them greater opportunity. And maybe at least at a minimum, the opportunity I was afforded to be standing here as the first Black woman to serve as your Attorney General. And so I know the tools of this office and how great they can be. So what we did in year one was to put our head downs in many ways, to disappear, except for occasionally showing up in Quincy, but to disappear in many ways, to engage our team all across the Commonwealth, to engage folks who served on our transition committee, and many are in this space, to also, of course, reflect on the conversations we had on the campaign trail, to put together a strategic plan. Why is that important? I think it's really important for folks to understand how we're going to use your taxpayer dollars to deliver on the work and all the things you say you need. How are we going to use the rule of law and the value of the rule of law to serve your needs and interests every single day? So in the strategic plan, I'm very proud because if you haven't seen it, I invite you to follow us on social media at MassAGO or just to check out our website. I think it's really important to review it. It's not long. It is not in legalese. It is in plain English. We've even translated it into several different languages because we think that's important. Because sadly, the average person doesn't have a clue what the AG's office is, what we're capable of, or what we do on your behalf every single day. I'm not going to stress every single pillar in that plan, but I'm going to speak to just a couple that I think are really important. The first is the number one issue we are talking about today is affordability. It's too expensive to live in Massachusetts. Healthcare is too expensive. Your groceries are too expensive. The uptick in harm and scams we're seeing, particularly against our elders and our most vulnerable populations, are on the rise. And we have substantial tools to address all things related to affordability. Absolutely taking on consumer protection cases and stopping scams before they begin, educating our elders. We even established a new elder justice unit within the office to make sure we're prioritizing the interests of elders in a very intersectional way. We also are making sure that we are taking on wage theft, which is a major issue, sadly, even here in Massachusetts. We have employees, probably some in this very courtroom, who go to work every day and are not being afforded the wages they are entitled to. So wage theft is something we are prioritizing. We're also taking on student debt. And if you have any issues with student debt, you need to call us. Because why am I stressing that? This is a close to $35 billion issue affecting millions of residents right here in Massachusetts. If you work in public service, if you are a teacher, if you work in government, you're probably eligible for significant debt relief and you don't know about it. Our job as a student loan ombudsman is to put that money back into your pocket. On average, we're probably saving a resident maybe $100,000. Okay, maybe I made that up and just increased that. But I will stress, on average, we are saving folks a lot of resources. So all of these things related to economics are absolutely within the wheelhouse of the AG's office, and of course, doing it in partnership with our folks in the legislature. We're also taking on housing. And I have to mention housing, including the MBTA Communities Law. Why is that important on Law Day? Because it is the implementation of the law, whether we like it or not. We had a progressive, I think, legislature and a former Republican governor pass that to help us with our housing affordability issues here in Massachusetts. Sadly, residents, including our elders, are leaving Massachusetts because it's too expensive. And so we're working with municipalities every single day, including Quincy, thank you, to come into compliance with this housing law that we think will be a significant tool to create housing for our public employees, and most importantly, for that next generation to be able to be successful. And also, it's an effective tool to close the racial wealth gap, which is really important. One last point I want to stress is everything having to do with our young people. That is also within our strategic plan. I'm not just an AG. I'm also the mother of 2 beautiful boys that I kissed this morning and waved goodbye as they went to school. I also kissed my husband, and God bless him, and waved goodbye to him as he went to work. But our young people in many ways are struggling. The mental health epidemic we are seeing here in Massachusetts, in this country, is real. Law enforcement obviously were just celebrated for the work they're doing on some very complex cases. But we're doing a lot, whether it's working to expand access to behavioral health services for our young people, which is really important. Taking on social media platforms. There are pros to those platforms, but seeing some young people in the space, and one just shook his head, there are also some cons to some of those platforms. There's currently a multi-state investigation that we're doing across this country to take on Instagram and Meta for the uptick in anxiety and depression and harm we're seeing amongst our young people as a result of these platforms. It's probably the only area where you are seeing Republicans and Democrats actually working together, which of course isn't necessarily happening in Congress, and is something we should all be proud of. Young people also care about economics. So when I mentioned wage theft earlier, it's really important that we talk about their economics. Sadly, we have businesses right here in Massachusetts who are violating our child labor laws. And as we work to enforce those laws, including by some of our Dunkin' Donuts franchises, God bless them, but some of them are culprits too. We are working with employers to make sure young people are educated on their rights, but most importantly, that they too are getting the wages they're entitled to. And like I said at the beginning, I don't know about you, but I show up every single day going into my job with the seriousness of purpose that it deserves, prioritizing all of you, regardless of your affiliation, your demographic, your party affiliation. I don't care. I represent you. But also to make sure that our young people are at the table on the work we're doing and are centered in the work we're doing. They need that in this moment in time. They need to also be celebrated for their significant accomplishments. We're going to do that in the AG's office. And my last point before I shut up, I don't know how much time I have, but I'm going to wrap it up very soon, is we can't forget that as we do all this work to afford folks safety, to afford them liberty, to afford them freedoms and prosperity, as our Constitution, which is the oldest functioning Constitution in the world, guarantees our residents, that all of us should be concerned about the threat to the rule of law and our democratic institutions that we are currently seeing in this country. It is way too divisive, and it doesn't have to be. And in Massachusetts, I'm really proud that we continue to work across the aisle, across all of our systems of government, all of our branches of government, to really get things done, because that's what people expect. I know Stewart has been in the news quite a bit. I have the Kearney, which is right in my district, and where I tend to bring my boys to the emergency room. Folks are showing up there, even in the midst of a bankruptcy, to work really hard to deliver care. Folks in this room are showing up to deliver health care, even though their health care benefits are not being necessarily provided for. So we're going to fight for them. But what it reminds me of is that as we do this fight together, the foundation in which we all do this work upon is a system that we probably take for granted, but it is a system of law. It is our Constitution. And while we work to make sure justice is afforded to everyone equally and equitably, we have to also make sure that that foundation stays intact. And our office is at the forefront of this work, locally and nationally, to protect the rule of law, to protect our democratic institutions, to make sure the courts are not politicized, to make sure we are appointing folks who are qualified to serve on our bench and in the roles in which we have appointment power, appointing authority power, and to make sure that we are exercising and implementing the law with the justice, the fairness, and objectivity it deserves. So to those who are doing this work every single day, I applaud your efforts. To our former judges, to those who are currently serving, to all of the clerks and the staffs of these courthouses who work hard every single day, to the prosecutors, the public defenders, the advocates, thank you for the work you do. We do it in partnership with each and every one of you. And like I said, it may be a tough time in this country, but I think we all have numerous examples that we can point to why it's still a blessing to, one, live, ask Frank Bellotti, but also more importantly, It's a blessing to live in Massachusetts and to serve in this time. So thank you all for having me today. Again, congratulations to all of the honorees. Look forward to continuing to work in partnership with each and every one of you. Stay blessed, and thank you to our clergy as well. Thank you.
The Mark Charbonnier Meritorious Service Award is in memory of Massachusetts State Trooper Mark Charbonnier, who died in the line of duty after leaving the Quincy courthouse. And so it's a very special award and recognition for all of us. Each year we present the Charbonnier Award to a trooper who by their deeds best exemplifies those qualities that were exhibited by Mark, his professionalism, his dedication, his courage in the line of duty. To present the award, we have two of his former classmates here today, Trooper Halloran, Representative Tobin. So please.
I'm happy to see Steve Charbonnier. I met Steve the weekend of his brother's funeral and wake, and a great guy, both of them, brothers. For years, it gave me a great deal of comfort to see Al and Claire Charbonnier sitting in those rows right there. They showed up every year to participate in these ceremonies, and then, of course, as age passed, they both did. But I'll forever remember them, and Kenny and I are very proud to sort of be here in their stead this morning. It's very strange for a trial attorney to be standing in front of three judges, especially two Chief Justices, Chief Justice Brager, good morning, Chief Justice Forts, good morning, and of course, probably, and it's just my opinion, the finest presiding judge in the Commonwealth, Judge Mark Coven. Judge, thank you very much. I know how much effort you and my dad put into making this ceremony, celebrating Law Day, as much about the community we live in and the lives and families of the officers who put on the uniform. They have a badge on their breast and they carry a gun, and every morning they go out, there's always a chance that something may turn south. Well, Kenny and I, retired State Police Lieutenant Ken Halloran and I wanted to keep the Charbonnier flame lit. And before I get to what will be me presenting my thoughts on Mark, remembering, and some of the achievements. We can't list all of the achievements of Rick McCune, but I'd like to introduce his lovely wife, Cheryl, who's here with us. They drove all the way from Sturbridge to be here this morning, and happy to have you. I know you're a very worthy recipient. Before I do that, I just want to acknowledge a couple people, because seeing them today brings warmth to my heart. I served in the state legislature for 22 years. I got elected in 1988, and one of the people who was my consigliere, if you will, sat in my father's living room in 1988 across from my dad and I, and helped plot out a roadmap to how I could win that vacant House seat, and that's Ron Mariano, the current Speaker of the House. I wish I could have repaid you by voting for you for Speaker. I never had that honor. That someone else, by the way, would be Representative Tacky Chan. Tacky took my open seat when I left, and Tacky has done a better job, I'm told, frequently, and I want to recognize you. And then my best friend in the legislature. We didn't serve 22 years together. I got there before him, but now Senator Walter Timothy from Milton. Walter, my best friend. It's great to see you this morning. Mark Charbonnier was the state police prosecutor here at Quincy Court for a while, and I met him sometime in 1991. My dad grabbed me and said, I want you to meet the prosecutor. He's going to New England School of Law too. And so I met Mark Charbonnier here at Quincy Court, said hello, wonderful guy. He just, the blonde hair that wasn't always combed quite right, it would stick out to the side. Everything about that guy I remembered for the wrong reasons. I tried my memory so many times to remember as much of him as I could. But he had the best smile. He had an attitude. The dude was like a surfer. He got married right in the middle of finals in 1994, at a time when I was stressing out because I was finishing my third year at law school. and it was a tough time. And I saw Mark, and I said, "Where are you going?" He says, "Oh, Anne Marie and I'm going to do my honeymoon now. I'm not going to wait and put off finals." And I just thought that was like the height of what I wanted to be at. I wanted to blow everything off, but knowing I could competently do it my way. Loved that about him. I met Ken Halloran through Mark Charbonnier. Kenny and Mark were hanging out together. There was a lot of law enforcement. A lot of law enforcement go to law school nights, and we had a good contingent at New England. And I saw Mark and Kenny in the hallway, and I went up and I said, "Hey, Mark, how are you? Nice to see you." And he said to Ken, who I didn't know was a trooper, although he looks like the prototype of a trooper, I didn't know him. And Mark said, "Ken, this is Steve Tobin. This is the clerk's son." And Kenny changed automatically. He gave me a smile now, and he says, "Oh, you're Arthur Tobin's son." He says, "That's great." I said, "Yes." He says, "Well, anytime you want to cheat on my notes, let me know. I'll let you borrow them." And I said, "Oh, two good guys." It was tough going to school nights, but in early September 1994, I finished my third year, and I was about to start my final year of law school, and I thought, it's going to be a great year. I took this class, I don't even remember what it was, and I don't remember who was in it, but it was just before Labor Day. I'll never forget that. And so all of us night students were dressed to come back to class. I was coming from the State House. I had a suit on. Everybody else was dressed coming from business, whatever their occupation. And whoever was teaching the class started to walk along and do handouts. And so we had stadium seating in this classroom. And so the person in front of me is reaching back up to hand me a stack of whether it was the syllabus. And I, in turn, took that, put mine down, and turned to give to the person behind me. And there was this bony knee, not wearing pants, a tanned knee with curly blonde hair. And I was shocked. I mean, who's still coming to class wearing shorts? And I said, "Geez, Shabo," I says, "Summer's over, man. Summer is over. Put on some pants next time." And he laughed at me. I might have got a punch in the shoulder, I don't know. But 48 hours later, I woke up in the morning. My father called me. He says Mark was killed last night, right before Labor Day. I mention this in a way that's sort of depressing, only because we had so many families in here a little while ago. Stevie Charbonnier is here. Every one of these people who gets a bad rap because, oh, maybe they pulled somebody over, you're doing a traffic detail and you're mad at the officer for waving other people on. It's like, nah, you're missing the point. This is it's a strange career, not for everybody. My dad took a call from my brother Bruce. I don't remember the name of the recruit training class Bruce was in, but he was in the academy. And my dad said, "Hold on, Steve's here, he wants to talk to you." And I said, this was Friday when Mark was killed. I said, "How you doing, kid? Are you coming home? Are you going to leave the academy?" And he said, "No." No, he said they woke us up last night when it happened, and they told us what had happened. And Stevie says, "I'm getting the best training. I mean, somebody's got to do this job, and I want to do it." And I said, "God love you." And I think that speaks to Mark Charbonnier like nothing else. He knew all about it. He knew what he was up against, and he was studying for something better in life. And I know Rick McCune is very happy to be receiving this award. Kenny's going to give it to him in a moment, because it's named after Mark. And always remember that Mark was loved by a lot of people. It's not just because he was unfortunate enough to leave us in the way that that happened. I can't even talk about that. I don't even want to go there. Disgraceful. But Rick McCune, Colonel McCune, now retired, began his career with the state police patrolling the roads out in central Massachusetts, the Worcester area, Springfield. It didn't take long for him to distinguish himself with his talents. They were recognized, and he was brought in by the Worcester County District Attorney's Office to work there. He worked there for quite a while with the detective unit investigating murder and other serious crimes. One of those cases was the murder of Paxton Police Chief Robert Mortell. The chief was shot and killed while trying to apprehend 3 career criminals who were involved in a string of burglaries. It didn't take long for Rick and his team to arrest the suspects, and all 3 were convicted of murder. In all, Colonel McCune spent 25 years with the DA's office, rose to the rank of captain and unit commander. Again, his work ethic and success didn't go unnoticed. In 2011, he was appointed to the rank of major in charge of the State Police Division of Investigative Services, overseeing all detective units throughout Massachusetts. The governor, the then governor, was so impressed with Rick's accomplishments and demeanor that he appointed him colonel of the department in 2015. His first accomplishment and show of compassion was obtaining funding from the administration to supply every member of the department with electronic control weapons. It was important to him that troopers had another tool available to avoid escalating to the use of lethal force whenever possible. He knew this would benefit department members as well as the general public. Statistics have shown he was correct. The following year, in response to the marathon bombing and generally to the times in which we live, Colonel McCune made the unprecedented move of establishing an entirely new division within the state police called the Division of Homeland Security. The Homeland Security Operations Center was opened and is comprised of a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week watch center, plus analysts trained in behavioral observation and specialty units such as the cyber crimes, the air wing, and the marine sections. Personnel focus on areas such as anti-terrorism and human trafficking, among a variety of others. They work closely with our local and federal partners, and the division has been extremely successful fulfilling its mission. And now I'd like to ask my dear friend Kenny Halloran to speak a little bit more about Colonel McCune's worthiness of the Mark S. Charbonnier Award. Kenny?
Thanks, Steve. So throughout his career, Colonel McCune has displayed the following qualities: intelligence, strong work ethic, common sense, honesty, loyalty, trustworthiness, dignity, respect, and compassion for others, the same qualities we saw from Mark. For all those reasons, Colonel McCune is being honored with this award. But the biggest reason he's receiving it is because he's one of the good guys. When the great Arthur Tobin came to me, spoke to me almost 30 years ago about creating this award, we agreed that the most important criteria was that the recipient had to be a great person. Arthur, we did it again this year. Congratulations.
We're taking a picture, Cheryl, if you want to pose. Another picture? Colonel, would you have a few words?
I have a couple of brief words, and I will be brief. And I know it's been a long morning, but I think the award is worthy of at least some comments. And I'd like just to start by saying good morning, of course, to the clerk magistrate, Mr. Tobin. Good morning, and thank you for having me. Justices, distinguished guests, thank you all. was going to get into a couple of things. I also want to thank Kenny Halloran and Mr. Tobin, of course, for all their efforts in this committee and allowing me to be here, which I greatly appreciate. This event is always such a great day, as we all know, and it brings together law enforcement, and oftentimes they're not recognized the way they should be. And I have a short story. It's going to be light. I'm going to stay with it, but I also want to thank and recognize my wife, Cheryl, and my 3 sons, one of which is also a state police officer. I have one son that's currently actively in the U.S. Army, and then my youngest son is the best. And I thank you all for your love and support over the years. So I'm just going to give a brief story about state police, and I want it to be light, and I'll move really quickly with it because I know everybody's very busy here, and I'm retired and I'm not as busy. But so the state police, in case everyone doesn't know, it really began in 1865. Governor John Andrew signed law creating the state constabulary. It was a state police force. The first state police chief was General William Sterling King. And General King had been shot 20 times during the Civil War at the Battle of Antietam. And he obviously survived his injuries, but it was quite an appointment. And really the purpose of the new state police force was to combat illegal manufacture and sale of alcoholic beverages. State police force then grew to detectives and district police, and in 1921, the Uniformed State Police Patrol was established. Barracks were strategically located throughout the Commonwealth, and patrolmen, as they were known, would live in the barracks with 1 day off every 10 days. They'd travel back and forth to their home via Greyhound bus, and usually back the same day. The barracks were clustered in troops, and in the 1950s, the patrolmen were designated as troopers, and that became how the name troopers established. But policing was beginning to modernize, and some other somewhat interesting points. I'll just throw it out there for entertainment value. But in 1955, the Mass Turnpike opened. And troopers were patrolling out there, but they patrolled in green and white station wagons. And they were used as ambulances because ambulances really didn't have access to that road, and they weren't as prevalent as they are today. There were no seat belts. Truck safety inspections were non-existent. Truck drivers would drive to exhaustion, sometimes with horrific consequences. Troopers wore wool long-sleeve shirts, boots, and breeches all year round. No air conditioning, of course. But then in 1969, a summer uniform with short sleeves and slacks was established, much to the delight of all. And in 1971, the barracks system was dissolved. Troopers were assigned new cruises and commuted to and from their homes. There were no barriers or cages in the cruises. If someone was arrested or prisoners were to be transported, they rode in the front passenger seat next to the trooper. Radio communication was often inconsistent with dead zones in many rural areas. The barracks sent rosters and assignments to the troop via teletype. It was a paper tape that was prepared, and it was submitted into a massive machine for transmittal. Then, of course, we all know pagers, bag cell phones, and eventually computers came many changes. And the old technology clock never stops. In 1994, General Headquarters was relocated from 1010 Commonwealth Ave in Boston to the former State Police Academy on Route 9 in Framingham. Plans were developed for the new crime lab in Sudbury, And in 1994, a major change was implemented. The merger of the state police, the Metropolitan Police, Registry of Motor Vehicles Police, and the Capitol Police, forming the new Department of State Police. The department suddenly doubled in size. State Police Academy was moved to a new facility in New Braintree. Class sizes increased, and no more graduations at the Commonwealth Armory. They were now held at convention centers. Over the years, in countless investigations, responses to disturbances, events, security at Logan International Airport, Gillette, the Esplanade, to name a few, the duties of the MSP was immense. But the public expects and demands the best effort from law enforcement, and rightfully so. And to meet those expectations, troopers follow written rules, regulations, policies, procedures, supervisory guidelines, and layers of oversight within and outside the agency. I know of no other occupation other than the military where, in preparation for a work day, getting dressed means putting on a bulletproof vest, a uniform, a duty belt with a firearm, extra ammunition, a portable radio, maybe 2 sets of handcuffs, a baton, pepper spray, and an electronic control weapon, a taser. Then attaching your body camera, get into the cruiser where the GPS is activated, and be ready for the challenges to inevitably come. But today is about remembering and honoring Trooper Mark Charbonnier for his duty, dedication, and his courage. And I truly appreciate this award, and I will cherish it in my memory forever. Thank you all very much.
Excellent. Honored to meet you. Honored to meet you. Don't forget, yes.
Rabbi Mann, as you all heard, was a great friend to this court, attending Law Day for 48 years until he moved back to Israel and ultimately, eventually died. But he exemplified the best. This award is very important to the Quincy District Court, not only because of his relationship to the court, but it also because it provides a broader understanding of the criminal justice system. That the criminal justice system involves not only law enforcement, but also social justice. And the rule of law requires not only enforcement, but understanding and compassion. And for those reasons, this award has become so important each and every year. The first recipient is, who did you give first? I say Commissioner Pamerson Eiffel. Commissioner, if you could come up. So Commissioner Eiffel was appointed the Commissioner of Probation earlier this year. He actually grew up and rose through the ranks through the probation system. Started as a juvenile probation officer, chief probation officer, Suffolk Superior Court, a regional supervisor, an assistant or deputy commissioner for pretrial services, and now has been appointed commissioner. This award, from my perspective, not only honors Commissioner Eiffel and everything that he has done for the people of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but it's really an honor to recognize the work of all the probation staff. It's a difficult job, as Chief Grunberg could tell you. There's probably not a probation officer, and I came here to work with probation in 1999. There's probably not a probation officer in this court who hasn't lost someone who died of an overdose. And every day the probation staff is out in the community working to assist people find better directions in their lives, to resolve the issues in their lives, who work with survivors or victims of abuse, who work with community justice support centers. And so in honoring Commissioner Eiffel today, we honor the entire probation department throughout Massachusetts. Thank you, Commissioner. The next recipient is Chief Justice Jeffrey Locke, now retired Chief Justice Jeffrey Locke.
This one's easy. I've known this guy for a long time.
Chief Justice Locke,
a better family, great to work with.
dedicated his entire professional life to public service. He was an assistant district attorney in Middlesex County, assistant U.S. attorney, then became appointed to the Superior Court. Much to his dismay, he was never appointed to the District Court, only to the Superior Court. He became Chief Justice, before that, I apologize, before he was appointed to the bench, he was actually District Attorney of Norfolk County. I left that out, and after that, he was Commissioner of the Department of Social Services before he was appointed to the bench. He was appointed to the Superior Court, then appointed Chief Justice of the Trial Court. And for everything that he's done throughout his professional career, we thank him with the Rabbi Mann Social Justice Award. Thank you very much, Chief. Every year at Law Day, we honor one or more employees of the court here. So it becomes very personal to me, it becomes very personal to all the management team here, including the clerk magistrate, the chief probation officer, and the chief court officer. Today we're honoring Jim Comerford, the assistant clerk magistrate at the court. Jim, could you come up, please? So Jim is a Quincy guy. He worked here for 33 years, and he's one of the great legal minds in the court system. He's published 7 books, including the mass practice volume on insurance. When I review it, it's great bedtime reading. It puts you right to sleep. But he's not only published books, but he's lectured judges, court staff, lawyers, really given up his time to educating people throughout Massachusetts. He's also one of the most creative people who worked in the court system. During the pandemic, we continued to operate. People had problems. People needed restraining orders. People needed substance abuse commitments. We couldn't close down, and there were a handful of us who were here every day. Some of them in the back, my staff, Jen, Lawless, Rose, and Jim and I were here alone. We did most everything by Zoom. But throughout his career, he's always been creative. He's thought of better ways of working the court, how we could be more efficient, how we could be more helpful to people. So I will personally miss him, mostly because he's written a lot of my opinions, and I'm not ashamed to say that. But he's done great service for this court and for the people of Quincy and the people of our district. So thank you, Jim.
Yeah, thank you. So, I'm going to be very brief, but there was a fellow named Samuel Spencer, perhaps better known as Mark Twain, and he wrote that the 2 most important days in your life are the day that you were born and the day that you learn why. And I'm going to get to the why in 1 minute, but Judge Colvin and I co-authored the Mass Practice Series volume, and I just want to, he's a beacon of optimism, but I just want to let him know that we're not going to reach the sales figures of Mark Twain. But Matty Traft over here, he's selling his $7,000 wedding tux, and he's $7,000. But he's promised to buy some books for his family and Chris Tufo over there. So In any event, I found out the why when I came here to Quincy and began working closely with a man who consistently demonstrated a dedication to the law, to legal education, to family, to friends, to colleagues, to the different departments within this court, to the employees of the court, to the police, to the district attorney's office, to those advocates that come in and advocate for the indigents, and perhaps most importantly, his dedication to the community, and for those who come into the court, to the understanding of their needs. So thank you for that education. And to Arthur, thank you for providing me the opportunity to represent your office and for your teachings that we're here to solve problems. So thank you.
I just want to thank a few people who made the day possible. I want to thank the staff of the court, Joan Dunn, Trish McGill, Rosanna Galvin, Jen Lawless, Rose Tortomasi, Tina Scarrett, Hannah Burns, Jackie Burke from the staff who made this all possible today. I want to thank the Quincy Police and particularly Sergeant Faraday for helping us with security and organizing this event today. I want to thank Larry Baker and his staff for their volunteers outside. I want to thank the county commissioners and particularly John McGowan, who works for the county, who helped us set up and will help us take down today. The Quincy schools, and David Shue and George Montilio for being here. So with that, I'm going to ask Rabbi Gurkow to come up and give the benediction. I didn't recognize Rabbi Levy. Welcome to Quincy. Rabbi.
Thank you very much. The great thing about coming at the end is that you get to hear all the layers and perspectives of law and its enforcement, and then you wonder if your remarks will fit in. But it is an honor for me to be invited to present the benediction and the prayer, and to be standing in the spot of the great rabbi of Quincy, Rabbi Jacob Mann. Although Speaker Mariano told me nobody stands in the place of Rabbi Mann. In just a week from today, Jews will be celebrating the holiday of Passover. No, it's not the big Passover. That was 3 weeks ago. This is a one-day Passover, celebrated exactly a month following the first Passover, which will be celebrated by the fellow members of my faith here in this room. Don't worry, no 4 cups of wine, just a little matzah in a symbolic way to celebrate the day. The origin of this second Passover goes back to the times of Moses, when there was a group of people at that time who were not able to participate in the festival because they were ritually unclean. So they begged, how can we participate? So God answered, we will give you a second chance. A month later, when you will qualify to participate and celebrate. This is the story behind the holiday, but the message is very powerful. There is a second chance. And for everyone here in this room, this is what you do every single day. You are giving people a second chance. We don't call it the Department of Incarceration. We don't call it the Department of Imprisonment. We call it the Department of Correction. And for good reason. We are here to correct and rehabilitate people who have made mistakes, bad mistakes, sometimes done on purpose. But the purpose was done on an outer level. Our job is to seek their inner level and to realize that it was a mistake. The key is for us to be mindful of that when administering punishment. When done right, it will reciprocate and bear eventual fruit. I want to say that we admire this court for being the pioneers with its well-known substance rehabilitation program that takes place here. And so I offer my prayer to the Almighty as we are here to fulfill one of your divine commandments as one of your 7 laws to all mankind, which is to appoint judges and officers to execute the law. That we do so while being protected from misjustice, to be conscious of the deep side of every human being, to enable us to transform them during their time of service, to become upstanding human beings, and move on to contribute to society. And may each member of our law enforcement be protected and shielded from any harm so that they can perform their duties with honor and dignity and distinction to secure all of our common citizens' lives every single day. Let's all say amen and thank you very much.
Thank you, Rabbi. I want to thank you all for coming and for all your participation, not only with today, but we are a community here, and your participation with what we do here at the Quincy District Court makes our work and fulfills our work. So thank you all very much.